And we are theoretically live. Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing today? Um, Hopefully we will show up on YouTube here really quick here. And it looks like we are. Okay, how's everyone doing today? Good, glad to hear it. First of all, welcome to our second podcast. I just posted in the chat, our chat guidelines, but I'm going to go over them really quick, and then I'm going to do introductions. The chat guidelines are as follows. Please be civil and respectful. Remember that there are human beings behind the keyboards and the cameras. Be helpful if you can. Greg and I are here to answer as many questions as we can, but if you all know any of the answers, please feel free to pitch in and help the community out. Greg and I reserve the right to boot somebody from chat if the rules are not followed. We'll adhere pretty strictly to this because we want to keep things civil, we want to keep things professional, and we want to keep things nice. So that's it. Hi, everybody. My name is Mark. I'm the operations manager for ServerPress. And if you don't know me, I've spoken at a few WordCamps and try to get to them when I can. And happy to help and be here for you as much as possible. And with that, I will turn it over to Greg.
Hey everybody, I am Greg Franklin and I handle support at ServerPress most of the time. And today we were thinking about all the different topics that we want to cover in the shows, and we thought we would tackle a basic one today and provide lots of tips that a lot of people don't know about. So we thought we would start with the LocalHost page. And the LocalHost page, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let's start with that. So the localhost page, there's several ways to get to it. The most common way is in Desktop Server. When you log in, whether it be premium or limited, at the very bottom over here on the left is a button that says Sites. And if you click on that Sites button, it's going to open up your browser, usually the default browser, and it's going to show you this page, the localhost page. But you also can, of course, get to this page by typing into the browser address bar localhost, and that'll get you there also. If you haven't created any sites, this button will be grayed out. And so at that point, when you create a site, then the button will become active again. If you try coming to the localhost page and it doesn't come up, that usually indicates that the web server has not been started. And you could come back to Desktop Server and choose that first option to stop and restart the web and database services, hit Next, and then hit Restart the web and database services. And those services should start, and then you'll be able to access this page. So let's talk about what's on the page. From the first thing you'll notice is that it's going to show you a list of the sites that you've created. If it's on the limited, it would be up to 3. If it is the premium, it could be unlimited. So that's one of the benefits of the premium is you get unlimited sites. And in here, you're going to see up here at the top, it's going to be sorted in oldest to newest. So the last one you just created will be at the bottom. But you can sort it by coming up to where it says name, where it's got the little 2 arrows. And if you click on that, it's going to sort it in alphabetical order, either ascending or descending. So if you click it again, it'll be descending. So then you click it back again, ascending. It is not a static, it's not going to maintain this state. So if you were to refresh the page or reload the page, it's going to go back to where it's showing oldest to newest. So that's something that how this page basically works right now. And I wanted to mention, I know when we first start up Desktop Server, when you create a site, you'll notice that the sites start with www.example or www.whatever. You do not necessarily have to use the www. And one of the advantages, if you did not, is the sort on that would, of course, sort by the name of the domain rather than this www part, which would always put those at the bottom. So that would be something to consider. The other thing that you'll see on this page is over here to the right, there are 3 buttons. The first one is visit website. That's going to take you to the front of the website, basically what public sees. The other one is a dashboard, which of course takes you into the back end of WordPress to go ahead and make any changes, add post, anything that you want to do there. And then the last one is the database. And the database takes you into PHPMyAdmin, which is basically a GUI or a graphical interface for MySQL. And when you click on that particular button for that particular site, it will take you right to that particular database. You may have several other databases created from other sites that you've made, but this will take you right to this particular one. So you can see right here, this is the standard 12 tables that comes with WordPress. This is before you add a plugin or you add a theme or something like that, which adds additional tables, but this is what it would look like before anything else gets added to it. I'm going to go ahead and close that. So those are very convenient, very easy to go ahead and jump to where you want to jump to. Let's see here. Up toward the top, well, actually, let me mention the bottom real quick. The footer is going to have basically what version that you're running. So you can see down here that I'm running Desktop Server Premium Edition version 391. If you are running the limited version, it'll say that down here. And then over to the right, there is an upgrade button that if you wanted to go ahead and upgrade to the premium version, if you click on that, it's going to take you to our page where you can go ahead and purchase Desktop Server Premium and upgrade. Up at the top, we have 3 links. The first one is the contact. And the contact will take you to ServerPress's contact form. So if you needed to contact us and ask us any questions, or anything like that, you can come to this form and fill it out and we will receive it. The next one over is support. And support is going to take you to our support page, which has documentation, tutorials, frequently asked questions, and videos, which takes you to our YouTube channel. And then to the left of that is our tools. This tools, depending on if you're using limited or premium, will have different things in it. And as you add additional plugins, which are available in the available with premium, you may see more and more things populate this. So the first one is PHPMyAdmin, which you saw when we accessed it from this button. But when you access it from here, it doesn't open up a specific database. It just takes you to basically the homepage of PHPMyAdmin. You can, of course, easily jump to one of the databases by simply clicking on it over here on the left to jump to any of the ones that we have set up. Let's go back. Also underneath there is a PHP information. If you're ever curious what PHP version Desktop Server is running on, we're running PHP 7.1.1.3 right now, but of course, every time you upgrade, you'll be able to see that by going to PHP info. Also, this is going to go ahead and give you information on what our settings are that we have currently. Things like, let's see, let's scroll down to like max execution time is set at 600, max input time is 300, input vars is set at 5,000, memory limit is 512. These can be important, especially on some themes that are kind of some of the heavier themes that require more memory or more processing time for PHP. And this indicates for you how we have it currently set up. And we do have high settings so that in most cases, almost everything is always going to work. But if a case of it not working, there are ways to go into your WP config file and set those. And you can actually go in and edit your PHP INI file also to make changes to these to boost them up even higher if you need it to be. Let's go ahead and step back. Tools. I'm going to kind of jump over Clean Import to go to Mailbox Viewer first. And I want to mention it because Mailbox Viewer is a plugin that is free. It doesn't, you can get it for the limited version as well as it's included with the premium. But if you happen to get our drip campaign where we have, when you get the local version, you usually receive an email quite frequently of tips and how to use different things in Desktop Server. And one of those is how to add a plugin. And we actually describe how to get Mailbox Viewer and how to install it. Mailbox Viewer lets you see mail. Because you're working locally, there's not a mail server. So Mailbox Viewer allows it to see any mail that is sent out of WordPress. So you can see here, like for example, my test one here, that a new WordPress site mail was sent out, and even your site has been updated to 498 was sent out, and other ones in here. And this not only works for what WordPress has sent out, but it also works out for any plugins that you add. So things like form plugins like Contact Form 7 or Gravity Forms or Caldera, any of those would show up inside here, any emails when you're doing testing. Same thing with WooCommerce or EDD. If you wanted to see what the invoices look like and things like that locally, this is where this plugin comes in very handy. And again, this is how you would access it. You would just come to your local host page, go into Tools and to Mailbox Viewer to be able to see those. The next one I will show you is Clean Import Settings, and this is a premium plugin. It comes in the premium version. And what it allows you to do, Clean Import, basically, Desktop Server allows you to import different archives that are from live sites. So if you are working on a live site of your own or a client and you wanted to bring that site into Desktop Server because you wanted to work on it locally, Clean Import kind of does some things for you that makes it go into Desktop Server easier. And there's a whole list of settings in here that you can go ahead and change. Things like if you wanted the transients to be deleted when you bring it in, you can. You can remove trashed posts. You can remove revisions. You can delete comments, deleted comments, I should say, and orphan post meta and things like that. And then we do disable some plugins because locally these plugins can sometimes cause issues. So when we say we disable them, we basically just rename them with a save and a date, and it basically turns them off so that when you import, you don't run into any issues with those. Now you can turn these off. These are the ones we've defaulted, but you can actually come in and turn these off. There are some that we turn off that cannot be changed, and those are usually caching plugins and security plugins. And these definitely cause problems with Desktop Server. So we take care of those and remove those. And that is everything that's currently underneath Tools. But as I mentioned, there can be other plugins that show up here, other settings plugins that can show up in here if they're turned on. We're always adding things to make things easy for you guys to change settings for those different ones. Let's see, I think that is everything about the local host page. Unless, Mark, can you think of anything that I didn't cover? Oh, you know what? I remember one thing I did not cover. Let's go back to the very front. And I want to mention two other links that will show up when you turn on certain plugins. One is DSCLI, and the other one is ngrok. So just to explain what those two are, DSCLI will open up a terminal window for this particular site. So you can see here, that is really small. I'm so sorry. I don't know why it's so small. So this terminal window is bringing us right into www.example.dev.cc, same as up here. And what this lets you do is DSCLI has a bunch of command line tools. So if you're someone who's not afraid of the command line, you can actually come in here and issue WPCLI commands. And they let you do all kinds of things. So this is what DSCLI lets you do. It also, I believe, has Grunt and Gulp in it, and Composer, and even Node. So I believe those are all command line tools that you can use that are available to advanced users. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then ngrok. ngrok is a tool that lets you share the website with a client or another developer or designer that needs to see the site, because your sites are local and you're behind your own router, which is there to protect you. Most people cannot see what you're working on. The only way to do that would actually be punch a hole through your router and do what they call port forwarding, but that's a security risk. And so we don't recommend that at all, because then you're exposing yourself to a hacker being able to get through that protection that's there for you, that router. But what ngrok does is it creates a secure tunnel. And it's very easy to use. You just click on Start ngrok, and it's going to open up a little terminal window like this, and it's going to create a session. And that session is going to provide you with links. And those links you can provide to the designer, the developer, or your client to see the site. And they can actually see the site the same way you are. So you guys can do collaboration. If he says, oh, I hate that background, change that color for me, they can do that for you. You can easily do that for them. Even to the point that if you had someone who was a content writer, you could set up them as a user, and they would be able to access the same link, put a WP-admin, and be able to get into the dashboard and actually write posts and pages. And then when you're completely done, you don't want them to access the site any longer, you can simply close the terminal window, and that disconnects them. And each time you start an ngrok session, it starts with a different URL, and that's for security purposes. I think now I've got everything covered. Mark, is there anything else that I might have missed?
I believe that you did get it.
I lost you for a minute there. Are you still there? Mark, are you still there? I lost your sound.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
My microphone came magically unplugged. It's like there was an earthquake here and everything fell on the floor. I'm not quite sure how that happened. So, Greg, I might have missed it, but did you happen to mention, I know you brought up DSCLI and you showed DSCLI, but did you happen to mention that DSCLI is 100% compatible with WPCLI, that it actually is all WPCLI wrapped up into DSCLI, and then we've added enhancements to it? So if you are familiar with WPCLI, DSCLI works just as you would expect it to when running from a command line interface.
And I also should mention that DSCLI, there's other tools that use DSCLI. So like ngrok, to run ngrok, you need DSCLI turned on. It uses it. And also the dynamic blueprints, which we're going to do a show on in the future on how to do dynamic blueprints, which are amazing. I love dynamic blueprints. And it uses DSCLI also. So those tools. So I think that's everything. Do we want to see if anybody has any questions?
Yeah, let's turn this part over to questions, and then Greg's going to do another demo, and that one's going to be on WPSiteSync. If you're not familiar with WPSiteSync, it is a tool that allows you to synchronize targeted data between either a local site or a staging site and your live site, or any two sites for that matter. And so Greg's going to do a demo on that. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask about what Greg just showed with the localhost page. And Dan, I'm going to answer your question really quick. You asked whether we'd be able to go through the launching of a localhost website to a live server like on Bluehost.
We could do an episode of that, yes.
We can do an episode on that. We won't be able to do it today. There are multiple ways that Desktop Server Premium allows for you to do it. There's a direct deploy method. There is also a quick deploy method. And then we have information on how to, if all else blows up in your face, how to go through and do it manually. And then we can also, and then one of our services as a premium member is if you have a hard time deploying a site, we will actually go in and we'll assist you with the deployment. So we have a lot of relationships with a lot of web hosts, and we do deployments pretty regularly. So we know who to talk to and how to get it done in case you run into any problems. So we're there kind of like as your backup partner in case you run into problems. And so let's see. Let me see if there are any questions. Rick asks, oh, you're in there, Greg. So he doesn't see any remote viewing tool.
I would assume that's because he might be unlimited.
No, he says he's on premium. Rick says he's on
Oh,
premium.
he should see. So maybe go into, so let me go ahead and bring my desktop server up, and let's
Yeah.
go ahead and hit, if you go up to stop or restart the web and database services and click next, you should see a list of the different tools that are available, your developer plugins. Make sure you've got an ngrok integration toward the bottom, and also make sure DSCLI is checked if you're going to use ngrok.
Hey, and Greg, can you maybe hit, well, I don't know if you can. It is a little bit small on the screen, so I'm wondering if maybe for a future episode, if we could increase the display
Resolution or
a
something
little
like
bit.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have to play with
yeah,
that.
yeah. Um,
Good to know.
yeah, Brad, that is something we are working on, being able to make it install onto a different drive than C. But right now it is strictly if you're on a Windows machine, which if you're using C:, then you probably are on Windows, it is going to be in the C:/ examp lite directory. But we are working on options as far as that goes.
But you can create your sites off on other
Yes,
drives.
yeah,
So, you
yes,
could do the site route on every one of your
yes,
sites and
yeah,
over on a different
yeah,
USB drive or
correct,
wherever.
correct, yeah, yeah, that is correct. So it's just the basics the basic installation of your Apache web server, your MySQL server, and your PHP interpreter. That stack has to be on your C drive. And Judith, yes, it will be available on our YouTube channel, which, by the way, since you brought it up, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much.
All right,
Okay,
well,
Rick says that works. Good.
I guess I'll go ahead and step into WPSiteSync. So I guess we'll start there next, if that's all right. Is that good, Mark?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Okay, so I have, as Mark mentioned, WPSiteSync allows you to sync posts and pages between one site and another, and it doesn't necessarily have to be desktop server to a live site or two local live sites, or it can be a staging server to a live site. You can even daisy chain them together, so you could go with a local to a staging to a live production. So that's what this tool allows you to do. And the way I'm going to show this is I've set up two sites locally, WPSiteSync source and WPSiteSync target. So I'm going to kind of jump over into those right now. To get WPSiteSync, you can come to add new, and it is a free plugin. So you can come up and do WPSiteSync. And it's going to come up right there, WPSiteSync for content. I've already have it downloaded and installed. So let's jump over there so you can take a look at that. And you'll want to install this on both the source and the target. And I want to mention, I've made the bar up at the top blue for the source and red for the target. So when we're coming between the two, it's very clear what we're working on.
And Greg, I'm sorry, did you show how to get the WPSiteSync plugin?
Yes, I was showing how you could download it.
All right.
So you get it from the repository.
Okay.
And just go add new, and then type in WPSiteSync over here, and then install and activate, which it has been done. And the next thing, you want to install it, as I mentioned, on both the source and target. Let's make sure that this is installed on our target. It's not. Let's go ahead and install it right now. Install and activate. And now let's take a look at, we're going to grab this address for the target. We're going to come back over to our source, and we're going to go under settings. And under settings, you're going to now see a WPSiteSync settings page. And it's going to ask us for a few things, one of them being the target. So I'm going to paste that target in there, and I'm going to add the username. I think it's test, and I think I use test for the password. And then down here, there's some other things that you can do, such as strict mode, where WordPress looks for the version. You can match the content by either title or slug. And we also have the ability to you can set roles on who can do the syncing and who can't. I'm going to go ahead and save the changes. And you should see a green check mark. If you do not see a green check mark, it has not connected to the target. So you'd want to go ahead and make sure that that's green. Now that we've set this up, and now that we've got this all, we should be able to go right to our either pages or posts. Let's go ahead and add a new page. And let's go ahead and say, we'll call this a test page. Oops. We are going to publish this. And now as soon as we publish it, we get this new meta box up here at the top. And it'll say WP-SiteSync. It's going to tell you where it's going to push the content to, which is the target that we have. We actually can click down and see additional information. The content has not yet been synced. And we've got our little blue button here to push to target. So I'm just going to push that. And content successfully sent to target. So if we come back over to our target now and go to pages, there's our new test page. If we go to edit, you can see it's got this as a test in there. And everything that you do over here we can add pictures, we can add copy, we can add anything that we want. And when we push to target, it's going to send that over to our target site from the source to the target. I did want to mention also, you'll notice that there's a pull from target, but it's grayed out. That is part of the premium version where you can go ahead, if there's been a change made up on the target site, you can actually pull it back into the source site. And there are also all kinds of other extensions. We're actually working on one right now for Beaver Builder and Divi. They are a little bit different in the way the pages send different kinds of up on WPSiteSync.com to review those. Mark, I'm going to let you take over and talk about any more of WP SiteSync and take a breath. So it's all over to you now.
Yeah, first I'll answer Tony's question really quick, which is, Greg used the admin color bar plugin on Desktop Server just to make it so it was easy for him to show you which one was the original and which one was the target site. That is a plugin that comes with Desktop Server that allows you to, when you're creating your local sites, to remind you that you're actually which site you're working on. So it uses, you can change the color to whatever you want. And it's a pretty cool plugin. There's actually there's a tutorial on our YouTube channel that shows you how to configure this plugin. So hopefully that answers your question. Peter, WP SiteSync for content is free. That will allow you to synchronize both your posts and your pages. And then if you want to get into some more specific types of data, we have some premium extensions. You can buy a bundle for $129 that includes all the extensions and the extensions that we're coming out with. And if you head over to WPSiteSync.com, you can see a list of those extensions. So it's really been useful. We've gotten a lot of good feedback. We just came out with 1.4.1, which was released at the beginning of August. And Dave Jesh, who is our lead developer on that project, is working really hard. I know that, like Greg said, we've been working on Beaver Builder. We're about ready to release an EDD plugin. We're testing it with compatibility for the 3.0 EDD. We've been working with the guys over at Easy Digital Downloads on that, and so it's a really good plugin. Rick, in answer to your question, this is really for specific targeted data. So it is not for a full site migration. Desktop server is actually a little bit better for that. And then there are some other tools out there that we're not affiliated with that also do a good job with migration of data. That's a complete database migration. Ours is specifically to synchronize targeted data.
I like to call it surgical.
Yeah, it's a little bit more surgical. Exactly. Exactly. Tony asks if we're supporting Elementor. It's funny that you bring that up, Tony. Do you want to answer that one, Greg?
It's in the roadmap and it's being looked at right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we hope to. Yes, we hope to.
Yes, we're working on it because every plugin out there writes to databases a little bit differently. We have to look at them all and find out what the challenges are. But Elementor is definitely one of those things that we are starting to work on as well. So yes, we will be supporting Elementor, hopefully just not immediately. Let's see. Does this work with custom post types, specifically handling post meta? Greg, I'll let you answer that.
Custom post types are an advanced feature. You can get an extension that is available that we have, and it will do custom post types. What was the second part of the question, Mark? It was.
Let me go back. Does this work with custom post types, specifically handling post meta?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. However, we are also working on an extension for advanced custom fields. Their post meta is very advanced, and they actually have, it's actually being rewritten. We started on this and actually have a version available that is not as robust as we want, because it really only works for the limited version, the limit ACF, which is their version 4. But there is a pro version out that is version 5, and the two ways that they do things are entirely different. So we're rewriting it so it works with both, even though they do things completely different.
Hopefully that answered your question. If not, go ahead. I'm scrolling through all the questions that came in. So Barry asks, is it possible to build a new WordPress website on my computer, then replace an existing one already online using ServerPress? The answer is yes, Barry. What you would do is with some hosts, the direct deploy works really well. And the way that you would do that is you would install a vanilla WordPress site on the live host, and then desktop server can interface with that and do a full site migration. And it's basically a few clicks and you're done. And then there are other ways that you can do it. But yes, desktop server is great for creating that local site. And then you can use desktop server and some of its tools in order to migrate that site to the live site. And so it's a qualified yes, Barry. How's that? Riza, I hope it's Riza. If it's Reza, I apologize for mispronouncing your name. Does it need FTP privileges on live sites? No, it does not. The plugin speaks to the plugin at the other side, so there is no FTP necessary in order to synchronize your data. Let's see here. Where did I miss anything? I accidentally scrolled up accidentally. Okay. You may have answered this question already. Do I need to uninstall my current version of DS to install the latest version? Carl, the answer is no. You can do an upgrade. Now, with that said, I recommend that you back up all your files, and we do have documentation on how to back up your desktop server installation, because anytime you do an upgrade of any software, it's always a good practice to do a backup. But it does have the option to do an upgrade when you run the installer on desktop server. And in fact, in most cases, we actually do recommend that you just do the upgrade, because then all your sites will remain intact. Will Gutenberg be an issue with desktop server? So
Well,
far,
that's hilarious. Okay, so right here, I just did that, but I did see a little bump. But yes, we're working on it to work with Gutenberg. You can actually see Gutenberg installed right here. So I've got a title and a test. I'm going to go ahead and push. But I did see a small little bit of glitch that I'm going to talk to Dave about. This didn't come up right away. So let's come back over here. Let's go to pages. There it is.
Good. Okay. Yeah, we have done testing with Gutenberg and its various iterations, and so far we've been able to work with it. Jan, how do we update the ServerPress program? Mine is checked to new version update on the open screen. Jan, that you actually have to go, if you log into serverpress.com and you actually log into your account, you'll see that the most current version is there, and you can download it there in your account section. Let's see, looks like now I'm getting to where other people have answered questions. Hi, Ken. Thanks for answering the question. Let's see. Hey, Christoph. Can I set it to migrate automatically on a bi-weekly basis? Okay, everyone, this is an inside joke between Christoph and myself, and now it's not an inside joke where we talk about the dual meanings of the term bi-weekly. And so I'm not even going to do any more than that and dignify that with a legitimate answer. Sorry, Chris. Let's see here. Thanks for the answer. Okay. I am concerned about running SSL on the local host, as many apps now need SSL running like APIs.
Desktop server will run localhost now with
Yes.
the latest version has a local -SSL plugin. Just turn that on and it will create a fictitious certificate that will allow you to run HTTPS locally.
Right. Can I WP sync all posts and pages?
With bulk actions, which is a extension, you can go in and select, like, I mean, when you go to like all posts, you would be able to select here and say bulk actions and then publish everything that you've got selected, but you could not say, I want all the posts and all the pages. You'd have to go to each one of those and push them.
Let's see.
I hope that made sense.
Does WPSiteSync support backup plugins such as Updraft Plus?
I'm assuming they're referring to importing a site that is made with Updraft Plus. Not currently. We do support many. We support about 6 different ones right now. Backup Buddy, Duplicator, BackWP Up. Updraft, we want to support Updraft Plus. The problem with Updraft Plus is they don't build a true archive. They break everything up into pieces, and then they don't even contain all of the WordPress files. They only contain parts of a WordPress site. So what we are working on in the next version is a pre-hook, and a pre-hook allows us to do some manipulation of an import that we might be able to actually build a true archive using the Updraft backup and be able to import it. That's the long story. Sorry.
Okay, and Peter asks, he says he means backup and restore.
I believe it does work. Yes, I don't see any reason why it would not do a backup and restore. Duplicator does for sure, and I'm quite sure Updraft would work right inside a local environment without any reason.
Let's see. Not sure if this was already answered, but can I sync multiple WP clients to one remote WP site?
It's on the roadmap. We want to be able to do multiple targets from a single source. It's on the roadmap.
Let's see.
Jan, there is some documentation. I'm going to see if I can grab it really quickly for you and post a link in here for doing Firefox, because Firefox does their SSL key outside of the operating system, where Chrome and Safari do it within the operating system. So there's just a few steps that you're going to have to take with Firefox. So give me just a moment, Mark. I'll go ahead and continue.
And then also afterwards, usually within 24 hours, I do show notes, and I will post show notes with this link in there so that you can have that without having to go through the whole chat transcript in order to find it. Right, and Ron is right. Yeah, Firefox does prompt you. There's an advanced link, if I recall, on Firefox, and you click on advanced, and then you have the option to make an exception for that certificate and store that exception.
I didn't know this, Mark. They don't allow me to paste a link into the chat.
Okay. It will be in the show notes, though. So I'll be happy to post that in the show notes. But yeah, I actually use Firefox quite a bit. I go between Firefox and Chrome. So, but if you go to our docs, docs.serverpress.com/article/262-using-local-SSL. And like I said, I will be posting that on the show notes a little bit later.
Yeah, maybe if I take the link off, the way you just described that, Mark, that might be the way to do it. No, it still didn't let me do that
still
either.
won't do it.
Never mind.
Okay, so WP Business Club. Can you run multiple multi-site installs?
Yes. Absolutely. You were talking about desktop server. Yes.
And then if you're talking about WP SiteSync, it's...
Yeah, let's talk about that. WP SiteSync, how it works with multi-site is it treats every site as a single site. So you can actually, you could actually treat one site as a source and one site as a target within a multi-site. But you also, of course, if you had a single site that you are wanting to push content from inside into a multi-site where it just treats everything as a single site. So you've got to install the plugin into each particular site within the multi-site.
Okay, I'm gonna try to see if I can get this link to show up in chat. Hang on just a second. And by the way, for a couple of things that I should have said is also that we do not necessarily have to only cover these things. If you have any other questions that are not super technical support type questions, we're happy to answer those too as far as desktop server and WP SiteSync go. Let's see here. I'm going to try to put this link in.
Chris, I'll add WP forms to the feature request.
Well, sometimes Chris might just be trolling me a little bit. I'm just saying.
Chris wouldn't do that, would he?
Oh, you know. Chris and I, we go way back to, you know, I don't know.
Ron,
a long way.
Ron, I don't know what Ghost Browser is. I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to look really quickly.
I sometimes have issues with email addresses keeping my local IP after deploy. Do you have any tips? Have you heard of that problem, Greg?
What was the question? I'm so sorry. I was looking.
No worries. Slightly off topic, I sometimes have issues with email addresses keeping my local IP after deploy. Do you have any tips? Email addresses, huh? That sounds like that's a scrubbing thing, isn't it? Are you talking about, Charles, are you talking about WP SiteSync or with desktop server? I assume desktop server. Yeah, Chris. Okay. So Morgan, limitations of Desktop Server Limited. It allows you to manage only 3 sites at a time. It does not mean that once you've done 3 sites, you can't do any more. You just you can't have more than a maximum of 3 sites. It also does not have multi-site support. It does not have import and export capabilities. those are the main ones. It doesn't do the ngrok sharing or the LAN sharing. What else can you think of, Greg?
All the plugins.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and then there's all the design time plugins that come with desktop server, like DSCLI, the premium version, which is a big very popular one. And DSCLI is actually driving a lot of what the future iterations of desktop server will be doing as well. So let's see here. What about Elementor for, okay, hold on. My scroll sometimes gets out of whack. Let's see. Ron brings up formidable forms. Let's see. Charles, I'm going back to yours. Would you mind shooting us an email at support@serverpress.com and then kind of giving a real world example of what's going on, and we can try to take a look at it, because that's an interesting problem that we've not run into. Let's see. Ghost Browser is a developer. Oh, are you familiar with using any of this with Ghost Browser at all, Greg?
No, I've never used it before, but if it's like Chrome, I mean, it sounds like it's based on Chrome. I can't imagine there'd be an issue with it.
Yeah. Linux version. The Linux version, we do have plans to have a Linux version.
But no date.
But no date. We are working hard at trying to get a lot of things shored up with future versions, which are laying the groundwork for more future versions of desktop server. And then we do want to get out a Linux version for sure, though. We are getting more and more demand for that. Carl, we do plan to do updates of the version from within the program. And a lot of times, to be honest, it has to do with developing for Windows, which runs us into headaches almost every single time. But it's getting better and better. To the people who are asking about Elementor with WPSiteSync, yes, we are. It is on the roadmap. We do plan to have an extension for Elementor. Can I set an automation of WPSiteSync to fire at any time? Let's say if I wanted to hook into an action of WordPress.
Not at any time. There is an auto publish extension currently available. And it will auto publish when you publish something new. So it kind of skips having to do the manual step of hitting the publish thing. But there's nothing currently set up for scheduling. And it's something that's being talked about, but it currently does not.
WP Business Club, you are limited which versions of PHP you have available, or can I have any? I like to match my host PHP version.
Currently, it's tied to the version. So 3.8.5 had 5.2, 5.x in it, and 3.9.1, the newest version, has 7.x in it. And you can't really switch between them. It's, again, something that's being talked about to be able to set up different PHP versions. But currently, that's how we do it.
Yeah, most of our philosophy with producing desktop server is to make it easy to use for the majority of the people out there. And the reality is only a very small percentage really need to match the PHP version of their host on a regular basis. And we've found that if you're using, for instance, 7.x PHP, you're not going to really have any problems with any of your hosts unless you're doing something very specific. And many hosts won't even give you all the information about how they're running. So they're kind of proprietary on their own anyway. So being able to completely emulate your host, unless you're controlling the host, most of the time, you're not going to know exactly what you're not always comparing apples to apples anyway.
And as of
Um,
this, and as of December, 5.x is dead as far
correct.
as they're not going to provide any security patches at all.
Right.
So the hosts that are still on 5x after December, you will not want to be on them.
Hmm.
It's too high risk. I guarantee you there'll be all kinds of hackers that will have figured out ways to get past PHP 5, and you're not going to get involved in that. So I would, if your host does not have anything higher than 5.x as of December, might be time to move hosts.
And Jan, to answer your question, Chris gave a very good answer. By the way, I joke around about Chris, but he's an absolute genius too. So there's that. And unfortunately, now this will go down in all the archives that I actually admitted that Chris Christoph is a genius, but I think everyone knows that anyway. Um, and in answer to your question also is that every host kind of has their own way that they've configured their security, and each company communicates with our software a little bit differently, and some will block certain types of requests. There's one host, for instance, that sees WordPress files because they're very small files. They look at WordPress files being uploaded as like a denial of service attack. So in the middle of an upload, it'll just shut down the connection because it sees all these little files coming in through their network, and it sees it as a DDoS attack and shuts it down for security reasons, when in reality it's just because WordPress is built up of a ton of really small files. And so that's just one example of things that happen between hosts and the client end when trying to migrate a site. And so I don't know Host Monster's specific issue. It may be like Chris says, it might be a max upload limit. It could be a number of other things, but that is certainly a possibility.
Hosting
Um,
is the wild, wild west. Everybody's different. Everybody does different things, but we're always, always ready to help our users get things deployed. So
yeah, that's right. I think I got through all the questions. If I didn't, can you, if I didn't get to a question that you had, go ahead and repost it, and I'll look for it. If not, I have a couple of quote unquote housekeeping things, and that should do it. In Desktop Server, could you readily allow the use of custom TLDs instead of me having to hack certain files to allow a .com? This would limit scrubbing. Uh, I'm not sure I completely understand. If you go, so I think what you're asking is for your local site, you want your TLD to be different. There's actually a way to edit. There's a preferences file within Desktop Server that allows you to set what you want your top level domain to be. Right now, it defaults to dev.cc, but you can change it to whatever you want, essentially. And the preferences file, if you Google how to get to the Desktop Server preferences file, you'll find it in our documentation. And the only key thing is to make sure that all the services within Desktop Server are shut down and that Desktop Server itself is turned off and shut down. And then you can edit your preferences file and actually change the top level domain. I hope that answered your question. WP Business Club, can you explain LAN sharing? I tend to host on one machine and write to another. So in uh, Desktop Server Premium, there's a feature called LAN sharing, which allows you to share one of your sites at a time by assigning an IP address to it. So what happens is you go in and you select the LAN sharing option in Desktop Server Premium, and then you select the site that you want to share, and then it'll give you the IP address. And then anywhere else on the network, if you put in that IP address, it will bring up that site for you, and you can work within it as you would your regular site. But the key is that you do have to be on your local area network. Or something like that in order to do that. Okay, good luck, Rick. Go sell another design. Let's see. And hopefully that answered your question on the land sharing. Super beginner question. Where do I access the import export feature to back up my site? That's within Desktop Server, and it is a premium only feature. So if you're using the limited version, that is not a feature that is available in the limited version. There are some plugins out there that allow you to make archives, but it's a little bit, there are a few more steps involved. I wouldn't say that it's rocket science, but it will take up more time to do it. So that's about it. So other than that, I think that's it. I just have a few things to cover here really quick. And then, first of all, we do plan to make this a weekly thing. We'll be announcing next week about the same time, and we will send out reminders and tell you what the subject matter will be. I just wanted to let you guys all know that we have been working on Desktop Server 3.9.2. We've been testing it, and it's going to have a few enhancements. The database archive plugin, which was a separate plugin that was released, is now going to be included in that. And then there's going to be also some enhancement to improve some of the site importing ability, and the ability to import larger databases will be enhanced as well. And I believe that's about it. So without further ado, I would like to thank you all for viewing. This will be up online shortly, and then I'll have the show notes up within the next 24 hours or so. So thank you very much, everybody. And thanks, Greg, for the demo. And we'll see you all
Thanks,
next
Mark.
week. All right. We'll see you.
See y'all. Bye.
Bye.